Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I'm your host, Keith Malinak. Coming up, I sit down with popular podcaster, talk show host, and bourbon expert Tim Young. Our conversation is next. First, let's talk coffee and bacon. How about bringing them both together in the Doc Thompson Bacon Blast, created for and named after our late friend Doc Thompson, who made a special request of Dave Matthews and American Pride Roasters coffee. And the unique flavor that resulted may not be for everyone, but it is an experience that you should try. The salty and smoky flavor of the Doc Thompson Bacon Blast is very memorable. There's also a chocolate version as well. Give them a try and give all of the amazing flavors that APR Coffee has put together over there at aprcoffee.com. You will find a blend or many that you will fall in love with. Absolutely. So many amazing flavors over there, aprcoffee.com. Use promo code ATM for 10% off at checkout. That's aprcoffee.com.
You're listening to At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production.
Tim Young is my guest this week on At the Mic, and honestly, I have no idea how to introduce this podcast here today, because when I hit record at his house recently, he just started talking, and so we'll just pick it up right there. Tim Young, one of a kind. He's my guest this week on At the Mic.
And if I clear this, that will fit over here nicely. If I clear my,
Yeah.
Wow. If I clear all the paperwork,
Then that thing will go right there?
it'll just go, no, it just sits right on it, on this
Yeah.
locker.
I like it. Oh, yeah.
What do you think of Topo Chico? That was the first time.
I like it a lot. Thanks.
We should be recording this.
We are recording this.
Are we? Mm-hmm. That's your first ever Topo?
Sure is.
How long have you lived in Texas?
I don't know.
Why do you hate Mexican people?
Wow.
Did you see that there's a, their logo is a topless woman that's in shape? That's... Okay, look at the little circle on that Topo Chico bottle.
Okay.
I never paid attention to it. Like, nobody ever pays attention to the mermaid on Starbucks.
Yeah.
There's a
Wow.
beautiful Mayan woman.
I see that. And I don't even have my glasses with me. And I do see...
Yeah, you can see it. It's all side boob on Topo Chico.
Topo Chico. Yeah. So this is my first Topo Chico mineral water.
You don't like it?
I've seen it everywhere.
Would you like a...
I already said I do like it.
I have a bottle glorifier for Topo Chico because I'm a hoarder and I get given everything. And I was at like the best of... Here's a brick for you to put it on. I was at the best of Fort Worth event that I got free tickets to, and then the Topo Chico stand, because everybody was drinking. They had 15 cases of Topo Chico left, tiny Topo Chico. I gave you a big one. I gave you an adult one because I'm a generous person.
Obviously.
But I had, they had 14 cases left. They're like, how many do you want? And I was there. My friend had taken me, who was a rep for Bardstown Bourbon, and I was like, I'll take 4. Because I thought for some reason 5 would be too much for her. She had a SUV. I should have taken all 14, to be honest with you, but because they're expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, just the bottle itself looks like a collector's item.
I was stone sober at this event, and I'm such like a filthy beggar that I got the bottle glorifier. I got half of their display. Did you see the bottle openers over there?
Yeah.
Chico bottle openers.
Nice.
Got them.
That's what I use.
I got 2 different T-shirts, a bandana, 2 different pairs of socks. Like, I literally like cleaned them out, and I'm like proud of myself. Like, I've given away the socks, but I like hoard. Like, if somebody gives me free things, I just take them all.
Well, I'm the same way. I think
I have more of a problem than you, though.
Well, and the thing that stinks, and by the way, if you haven't already deduced, I'm here with
an intro.
Tim Young. I do it.
I listened to listen.
do an
Unlike
intro.
the other ungrateful guests on your show,
Sure. You actually listen.
and mainly because I was stuck in the car for 16 hours, I listened to a couple of them.
Okay.
I want to be Dave Landau's best friend.
Yeah, Dave Landau is awesome. Let me write this down. Hang on. Okay, let's back up here.
You ever interview women, you bigot?
I do interview women, yes. How many episodes have you listened to? Not enough. So I wanted to revisit something, though, that you had just said. Being a hoarder. So check this out. Because I have that tendency, too. I really do.
You see, I got a bookshelf behind you. I have a display shelf now behind you of bourbon.
Nice.
I got 2 of those. So hold on, before you get into your story.
Such a dangerous place for me to visit here.
Because the problem is, like, people know that I collect advertising and stuff, and so a guy, like literally a guy that runs the wine bar down the street was like, "Hey, I have 2 advertising racks for bourbon. You want them?" And I'm like, "Of course I do." All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. But what I was going to say, it's dangerous to live in North Texas and be a hoarder because we don't have basements.
I have a garage.
You have a garage. My garage is. I get my garage organized, and then within 3 or 4 weeks, it's back to being this unmanageable beast. Do you have that issue? Because we're sitting right now in your living room area, and I'm surrounded by collectibles. And and I love it. Like I was saying, it's dangerous for me to come over here because every time I do, I just see bourbon everywhere. Yeah. And I just don't want to leave.
You'd think I'd drink more. That's the interesting thing is that, like, I had a guy try to insult me on Getter. There's this clown. I won't name him, but there's a clown who has been run off of almost every social media platform. He said I was a sloppy drunk. That was one of his things. And I'm like, I'm not. My problem is that I'm not. Like, I have, like, so, like, okay, so the other day, we're sitting next to a Yellowstone bottle glorifier that is basically just a piece of cardboard on a hunk of brass from, like, 1953, 1955. And so I had to go buy, I didn't have a Yellowstone bottle to put on it, so I had to go buy a Yellowstone bottle the other day from Costco for, like, $35.
Oh.
Just like, who goes, so that bottle did not come with, that's an actual bottle of the booze, obviously, on there, but, like, I went and bought a bottle of Yellowstone bourbon to throw on just because it looks cool, and because otherwise that bottle glorifier just looks like an empty piece of paper.
No, I see. I know exactly what you're saying. That's cool that you have people always looking out for you, though, man, that are sending you stuff. Does it ever get overwhelming that you get so much stuff sent?
Yeah. No,
like, you wouldn't dissuade anybody.
No.
Because then you might miss out on something.
And it is a FOMO thing. I said this earlier before we went on, but, like, so I just finished taping 6 of what was supposed to be 15 episodes. I spent a month in Louisville. And I had to rent a SUV to come home because I had so much stuff. And the thing is, so you're sitting in front of right there, that's a George Dickel napkin holder with original George Dickel napkins from the 70s in it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pack of, like, the OG, like, cocktail napkins in there, which is really hard to find. And then this is describing for the listeners at home, also on the table, this is a Model A Jim Beam decanter that's still sealed with all the juice in it from, I believe, 76, 78. But yeah, got that for $40. So
That's cool, man.
My problem is I have this monster bourbon collection. I don't spend money on it. And I get like, so I had to actually rent an SUV because I had so much stuff to bring home. I always want to have this conversation with myself, and people start to have this conversation with me where they're like, "You're a hoarder." And then they look at the stuff and they go, "Well,
yeah, there's a fine line, right?"
It's really like, it's like if I was collecting newspapers or cat feces or, stuffed squirrels.
Dude, I bet somebody out there actually is collecting cat feces.
They're like, hey, that's a problem. But when it's bourbon stuff...
Right. No, that's right. I agree completely.
I have a dope old man collection.
It becomes a collection. There's a line between hoarding and collecting. And
I'm right on it.
Well, I don't know. I'm surrounded by stuff that I would definitely lean much more toward the collection side. I just think that you need to set this place up to look more like a museum.
I do.
You got to put shelves up or something.
But I don't own it. So, like, I have my... So I have my bourbon room upstairs that I've blown out, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, like...
Yeah, your recording studio is a bourbon room / recording studio.
Yeah. And that is going to grow. I have to hang up more stuff on the wall because I literally just got back last week and my AC was broken. Yeah.
In the middle of a Texas summer.
Literally the hottest 4 days or something of the year so far. My AC was... But... I wanted to get it all done. That's why we're not recording there right now, is actually because my table still has all my old decanters on it. We'll go for a show and tell in a bit.
We can do a YouTube live.
Yeah, but my landlord loves me, but I want to buy a place, and then that place will turn into a museum, and I guess I'll have to commit to either never having kids or having 17 feet off the floor.
Can I just go on record as saying that I collect gold bars? So if anybody wants to, send me some stuff the way that you get bourbon related products sent to you, I'm into gold. No, so that was my question. You said you had to rent an SUV to come back.
Yeah.
How did you get up there?
I flew.
You flew? Okay, so then you...
But when you're in a place for like... So it ended pretty quickly. So I flew there, and I'm like, you can bring back, I think, 5 liters or... hold on, 1, 2, 3... 6 liters of liquor on a plane if you check your bag.
Yeah.
I had 6 liters of liquor in the first week easily because I went there and there's stuff there that in the Dallas region is 5 times the cost of what it is there.
Had you already bought the round trip ticket? Are you sitting on
I did Southwest on purpose. So
good.
So I could dump it. So I got the money back.
Yeah, they're awesome.
By the way, one of the things I added to my place is all securityed out now. I don't know if you, did you notice that very
noticed
large
the
camera in the corner?
I did.
There's like, and there's motion cameras. There's one there and there's a couple upstairs. But yeah, I have like tricked out my place.
Okay. This wasn't something I was going to say the last time I was over here, but I've had that thought like, maybe I'm not even going to bring up, but since you bring it up, I'm glad to hear that you have taken measures.
They're HD cameras here, and they're motion sensor, and they follow you around.
Ooh.
Which, by the way, every time I do, like, I feel like I've done this show before. Every time I do your show, we recorded.
We had some technical difficulties.
We had a test run.
Yeah.
We had a test run.
I have to answer the same questions again.
I'm so lucky that I was able to maintain my weight in Louisville because I've always my entire life had like weight issues and I've dropped 130 pounds in law school and whatever. But like, every time you're here, I'm like, I'm going to lose weight. And then I'm like, my life is great. What am I thinking?
Yeah. You had mentioned when we were last chatting.
I've been mentioning this for years.
That you had cut out drinking for the time being.
Yeah, haha.
Because there's so much sugar and alcohol.
Ha 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 ha.
And that apparently didn't last, huh?
Well, that didn't last.
But you look fine. I don't understand what the deal is.
Well, I need to get myself.
How were you able to drop 130 pounds? Because that's dramatic.
Not drinking.
Oh.
It's literally like so when I go to I really love this bougie steakhouse. So the problem is that life has been really good, right? And so like, and I enjoy it. It's not like I don't think I'm like rubbing in like success or whatever, but like I've done okay. And I don't like cooking. And I live in a tourist town. I live in Grapevine, Texas. And so I can walk up and down the main street and I'm friends with like all the owners now. This is what I wanted, by the way. I lived in DC. I lived in
And let me reset this here because you, like you said, lived in DC. But you wanted to live, correct me if I'm wrong, if I have some of these details wrong, you wanted to kind of live in a small town feel that was close to an airport, and you chose Grapevine, Texas, having no other connection here, right?
Well, I have a friend in South Lake, and that's it.
A nearby friend.
Yeah.
And you chose Grapevine, Texas, which is right near DFW Airport, but it is absolutely a small town feel with a main street that you can walk up and down. You could walk everywhere, and that's good for you because you don't have a car. Something else we need to discuss because I do find that fascinating.
I'm like the most environmentally conscious, by accident, conservative.
So tell us, you have this wonderful connection to Grapevine, Texas.
I love it. It's like I wanted to live in a goofy tourist town too, and it's a goofy tourist town. It's the Christmas capital of Texas.
Hey, you framed the picture I got you. Look at that.
I sent a picture of that. So you actually gave me a picture of downtown, and
like 100 years ago.
I had framed that. That was framed within like a day of you giving it to me and was on the door.
I have a bad memory
because it's a picture of like downtown Grapevine back before it was like developed. But no, so like I wanted to live in a small town where everybody kind of like I knew everybody and everybody knew me because I kind of think. This is going to be the biggest ego whatever of the, and I don't think I'm famous, but like, you know, my numbers are going crazy on social media and stuff. In DC, like when I was on local TV, I'd get stopped on the street a lot and like people would talk and stuff. And I have no problems. Like, look, I'm really grateful for everything, but like I wanted to live somewhere where everybody just kind of knew me and like I could just walk up and down. And that's what it is. I used to like for the longest time before I sell t-shirts and hats and stuff, I used to take them all over personally, get them printed by the place down the street. It became unmanageable. And I would take them, walk them down, or ride them down on my bike to the post office and come back. And like in the mornings, like everybody's got like water in their grass. It's like small town America, but it's not here because like everybody's like uber wealthy down here. Like when you realize it's like, oh, this is a great little small town America, and then you're like, wait, I'm sorry, what's the average price of a house here in this town? $600,000 or something stupid. But like, you know, everybody, you're waving everybody, and like I remember one morning, like the owner of the one winery. There's like a million wineries on Main Street, like 20. Was like, Tim, why have you not come in? You better come in today, blah, 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 blah. You know, drinks are on me. And I'm like, I mean, who am I to turn that down?
Right.
So that's, I started intermittent fasting to like kind of balance it out. But like, there's a steakhouse like that I really like to go into. And they're like, you eat like a bird. And I'm like, yeah, but I drink like a fish. Mm-hmm. That sounded really deep for like dad jokes.
No, so hold on a second. Hold on. obviously, yes, your success primarily through social media.
That's pretty much it.
At Tim runs his mouth.
But I get quoted, like, it's insane to me. Again, I don't have a publicist. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what would happen if I got one. Because I'm like...
But you also do podcasts and
not many, though.
Right, and some talk radio work, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, I host on Sirius XM and stuff. But, like, it's always odd to me. So, like, a friend of mine last week said, hey, you were just quoted on Fox and they based a segment around your quote. And I'm like, what? And so Harris Faulkner had put up my quote. I did an interview on Stephen Colbert because I used to be a fan of Stephen Colbert, by the way. I was at his 500th episode of the Colbert Report. I was invited. And
how'd that happen?
Ex-girlfriend's best friend was the assistant to the executive producer.
Okay.
Yeah, did you follow that bouncing ball?
I'll have to listen to it.
And then Kevin Bacon was like the next step was Kevin Bacon, by the way. That's how far that went. But like, so we went. But I used to be a fan, and so like I did a little interview on Fox for Fox Online, and lo and behold, like Harris Faulkner is doing a segment, and it's like Tim Young's reaction to Stephen Colbert, and it's like the full screen of that. And then they have Jimmy Failla or whatever his name is that's over there. Shame on me for not being able to pronounce his name properly. I'm sure he'd be offended. Responding to my quote with it said Tim Young : Colbert will lose followers or something like that on like the bottom of the screen while and I'm like, where am I right now? Also, why didn't you call me to be on your show? But you know what? I just thought it was so interesting. But you know the trick, by the way, and I've learned this, and I've been real fortunate to work in TV. I used to do this thing that they do in pro wrestling, and I learned this from like I've been friends with pro wrestlers for a while. Where like when you're backstage, you go and shake everybody's hand, you talk to everybody, and you treat everybody like you literally go and shake everybody's hand, and it's like offensive. It was like an old school pro wrestling thing. And so when I worked at Fox 5 in DC for like a year and a half of that was COVID, I'd walk around in the studio and in the newsroom and shake everybody's hand. I knew everybody, and I made sure to know everybody and be kind to everyone because these are people who will be in TV their entire careers and work their way up. And Fox is like Fox 5 in DC. I think it's like the top, I think it's like number 10 market or something like that. And it's also the direct feeder for Fox News. So all of those people there, and this wasn't just strategy. It was just me being nice to people. You should always freaking be nice to people. I just assume, you know, the intern there could become the producer for Bret Baier next week.
Sure.
And that's what's happened, by the way. Like they've all moved up. And I also learned how terrible on-air talent is. And I won't get you to talk about your stuff. And like, you've asked no questions. I'm literally just talking here. Yeah. That's what you get for bringing on a radio guy. But I realized too, because I would talk to these guys and they're like, you know, so-and-so is a real jerk. And I'm like, how are they a jerk? They're nice to me. And they're like, bro, this is the biggest learning experience of my entire career in local TV, especially. They were like, bro, you're on-air talent. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, people will treat on-air talent like a peer and then everybody else like trash. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? This happens? Like, how can you, like, I don't understand. Because I just view everybody as being on the same team. I just happen to be the a-hole they put on screen. Mm-hmm. Apparently not a lot of people were like that. And I was very shocked, especially in local TV. And I know definitely in radio.
Honestly, I think that it would shock a lot of people that are fans of media personalities to see how they are when the mic is off or the camera's not facing. You're a who?
I'm
trying to figure out how to bleep that so it still sounds funny. Let's see here. Yeah, so I think you're right, and it stinks that people just can't treat others with respect no matter what their station in life is, because you're absolutely right. This isn't the reason why you should treat people well just because the intern could end up owning the place 20 years later, but that is if nothing else keeps you from being a jerk, maybe that motivation would. Let's go back to your very beginning there, because you were born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. How was it growing up there? An only child, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize how poor I was until later on in life. So life was great as a kid. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, it's really interesting. Like the difference between the left and the right now is that the left is teaching people that they're different and they're victims and yada, yada, yada. I grew up, we were a very poor part. So literally right on the city line on the county side, actually. I always say Baltimore, Maryland, because it's much, and actually you would write Baltimore, Maryland as the address line on your, on your letters and stuff. but you don't realize how poor you are, and then later on in life, you're like, wait, we used to get food out of the church pantry. Oh, wait, we used to get food out of the church pantry. We were super poor. Like, I never like put that together. Life was great though. Like, you know, I was taught personal responsibility. Like, it was weird, right? Like, cause like now everybody's a victim, and everybody, as I belch, everybody is taught that, you know, somebody's owed something to them. And in my neighborhood, when I grew up, out like right on the line in Baltimore, like it was like we were taught that you can work your way out of it.
It's an amazingly simple mindset that seems so profound and different now. It's counterculture to think that you can work on yourself to improve where you are in life, as opposed to just wait for someone else to do it for you.
Also, when your parents are a little bit on the emotionally abusive side, and they teach you that you're never good enough, it really keeps you motivated forever, because you never accomplish anything, and you're the worst.
That, and you're motivated to get away from it.
It was, you know, it really actually taught me a lot, and I got to end up. I was trained as a public defender. I never worked in the public defender's office. It was my advisor in law school was like the original head of either the Maryland or the Baltimore public defender's office. It's a shame I can't remember his name because I'm a jerk. I can't remember names worth anything, by the way. I may have dementia. I was thinking that the other day. Either that or I work on 18 projects at once and I can't remember a thing.
You remember my name?
It's Keith Malinak.
Nailed it. See? Look, progress.
And you work with Jeffy.
I do.
And
I do.
Is this going to be on the Blaze? I just had to drop that in there.
Hold on. No, that's funny. Let's pursue that. No. Hold on. Before we go, because I want to ask you about college.
Before we go, is this over already?
No. Before we go on to the college stuff, I want to address something. Your earliest memory, having a picture taken of yourself at your aunt's house, but you wrote in the answer here, your aunt's house, AINTS. So my question is, did you grow up pronouncing it like that? Because I got to know.
No.
You just wrote it like that?
That's because I probably answered your questions on my phone.
Oh, that's too
And my spelling is...
and here I thought we had some weird Southern thing going on.
It was on I kid you not, I was on this little...
It was an autocorrect.
I was on this, like, turquoise chair, and she had these, like, little glass figures of, like, circus animals, like up, like I don't understand. We were poor, so it was like whatever. Actually, the absolute saddest thing that I remember back in the day, and like how you get a couple of drinks in me, and you bring this up, and I'm like a wreck.
Yeah, what are you drinking over there? It's kind of early. Is it just coffee?
It's coffee.
Dang,
it's coffee. But it's coffee from. I think this is coffee from. Is it Hoboken Coffee in Guthrie, Oklahoma? I'm really picky. Like when I travel, I buy pounds of coffee from different places. Like that coffee was really good from like a certain place.
Oh, you know where the best coffee is, right? It's called American Pride Roasters Coffee, aprcoffee.com. Don't forget to use promo code ATM at checkout for 10% off.
Why didn't you bring me any so I could talk about it?
That's true. I will next time. I will absolutely. I'm a Calvin Coolidge. The Calvin Coolidge and the George Washington Carver blends are far and away.
Is the George Washington Carver blend nutty?
It is peanutty. Yep.
Oh, man.
Sorry, dude.
You like that I understand history enough that...
Mm-hmm. I'll bring you some next time.
So what was I talking about? I told. So you started talking about college. My aunt. No, my aunt. I wasn't talking about college. We're not past my aunt yet.
My bad.
She used to save paper from the paper factory for me down the street. This is how poor we were. She used to get like the discarded paper from the like this is some like 1930s stuff right here. Like, and she'd have like all this. She'd save piles of like colored paper and stuff for me when I was a kid to like go home and like do construction stuff with. But yeah, she'd like literally go to the paper factory in Baltimore and get a bunch of paper and bring it down, like leftover refuse.
So do you think that, let me ask you this. Do you throw anything away yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
I'm selling stuff. I'm actually finally selling some of my bourbon because I have a couple bottles that are worth like $6,000, $7,000.
I was just about to say, you haven't told me you were going to sell any, but then when you said the price, then never mind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's nothing worth drinking. There's nothing, like, do I want a sip of that or do I want to get $6,000? And it's like...
Do you want to tell us your life hack on how you take bourbon and make like really cheap stuff taste like top of the line? I artificially age it. So I put like this is a real non sequitur interview, by the way, because it's me. You're counteracting my brain, which is like a million places at once. This is why I can't remember names. I add
charred oak staves to cheap stuff.
I love it.
Let it sit for like 2 months, and it changes the entire dynamic of the.
And you have had me try both this lower priced stuff that you have artificially aged with the top of the line expensive stuff and they taste the same.
Yeah.
They literally taste the same.
Yeah, the spice levels are a little bit different because the more expensive stuff has a higher proof. But other than that, like if I can find a way to like fake that, then I could be running a whole scam factory here of making stuff.
I find it fascinating that you went to UMBC for undergrad, right? University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Did I get that?
Nothing fancy, yeah.
Okay, so then you went and you went to Hopkins.
Well, I studied at Hopkins at the same time. I was part of a National Institute of Aging there. I did neuroscience research at Hopkins.
Yeah, what is that? Studied neuroscience? What'd you do there?
I studied the effect of drugs on like kind of curing Alzheimer's is the easy way to do it. We used to test on lab rats and stuff. So I used to run rats around a maze to see if the drug worked on them, if they could remember things. And then we'd cut their heads off and slice their brain into a million pieces.
Do you see any kind of optimistic horizons there for Alzheimer's?
I thought they had solved it. When we were there, they had a bunch of drugs that were kind of working. So I wonder if they like didn't make people like grow like a second butthole or something, and they had to like can them because the stuff we had was working.
Well, that stinks.
That was in 2002.
What?
It was 20 years ago.
So okay, conspiracy time.
Mm-hmm. Do I think that they don't cure things to keep making money? Yes, that goes without saying.
Mm-hmm. So okay. Hold on, I gotta ask you though about the mice though, real quick. I have a question.
Lab rats.
The lab rats. I'm sorry.
They're beautiful babies.
The lab rats.
I love them. I love rats, by the way.
Hold on a second. The lab rats. How do you? Because if they're trying to remember the maze, right?
Yeah.
How do you know they forgot it in the first place? Seriously.
Well, you shock them. So if they go the wrong way, they get shocked, and so they remember the right way because of pain.
But how do you know the drugs are helping them?
It's improvements or not, and time. It's like a time trial. It's a bunch of stuff. Errors that they make. Yeah, there was you note errors and then you note the time that it takes for them to get through.
Interesting. Okay, so you went to law school.
I can't believe I remember that was 20 years ago. And also it was 20 years ago. I'm old. Yeah, I went to law school. What about it? What about it, Keith? What do you want to know, Keith?
Well, what'd you want to do?
This was part of my parents. I was never good enough. So I was valedictorian in high school, and then I did real well in undergrad too, and I was doing, crazy stuff. So how do you go from neuroscience to law? Well, you realize that you don't want to go to med school and commit another 6 years of your life to something. Because I was valedictorian in high school, my parents were like, and I was the first person in my family to ever go to college. They were like, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. And I was like, lawyer's easier and quicker. So that was kind of a thing. That's really that's the bullet pointy of it.
Did you decide, it's not for me?
What, law?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a sociopath, and I made a girl cry in moot court. Like, who can make a girl cry? Like, that shouldn't happen. It's fake. You're like, so she was it was a criminal case, and she was a rape victim, and I was the defense attorney, and that's what they were kind of like edging me towards, was being a defense attorney. My mentors and stuff. And she forgot the weapon she was raped by, but she wasn't supposed to. That wasn't like something she was supposed to intentionally screw up on the stand.
Oh no!
It was like either it was a knife or a gun, and she got it wrong, and I was like, so it was a knife, and then she changed her answer to like gun or whatever, like she flipped it. And I go, I'm sorry. If I had somebody violently attacking me with a weapon, that's going to be burned into my brain for the remainder of my life.
Wow.
And then there's a lot of objections coming up, and it was very much so like a TV thing. And I go, I'm sorry, if you can forget what weapon is pointed to your face, I'm sure you can forget the face of the person that's much more complex when it comes to that.
Wow.
And the girl cried on the stand. And so that, and I'll tell you the other thing that made me
fail? I hope she failed.
She didn't fail. It was like a simple error, but and the professor was like, on the edge of her. She was like, that was like, it was something along the lines of like, that was like the only exciting moot court we've had in a while. And because I turned into a real vindictive POS, and I realized, by the way, and here's the magic of that. So say that's a real case, right?
Uh-huh.
The next victim of that criminal that I just got off is on me, and I couldn't live with that. Like, so if I'm a defense attorney and I get this guy off, who by the way, the facts were, yes, he did rape her.
Yeah.
And that's like, I don't think it's meant to like discourage people from being an attorney.
That's the effect it had on you.
Oh my God. I couldn't like I understand that everyone deserves the right to trial and the right to be defended and to defend yourself and whatever. But if I get a murderer or a rapist off and he turns around and does it again, that's somebody's life I ruined.
Yeah, that's a good point. So then you went to get a doctorate in public policy.
Why would I do that? Yeah.
And then you just got to the point where you're like, you know what? I got to go live my life, huh?
Yeah, I had enough. Yeah, no, I was arguing with my, like, academia. After you get a functional degree, like a law degree, and you go back to academia, like, you want to shoot yourself in the face every day.
So, okay. And you're right. This interview is going to jump around completely. Obviously, you mentioned earlier that you are primarily known on social media.
Yeah. I guess so, but like...
But hang on.
But am I?
I don't know. That's what I want to ask you. Hang on a second. Because, like we alluded to, you've done some podcasting, you do the Sirius XM stuff, but stand-up comedy as well.
I haven't performed stand-up in so long.
Yeah, okay, but still, that's part of your story.
Yeah, it is, and I really like desperately want to do it. But the thing is, it's very interesting to me because it's the most work for the least logical reward. I think it's the best to perform for people and make people happy directly and get that direct response. There's a real high to it. Uh-huh. But because I have so many things going on at once, it is like the last thing I should like. If you list all of, like, if you're doing a million things, it's like the last thing I should be doing because there's such a time commitment to it without me having a management team or something, which I still refuse to this point. But it's really, it's weird, right? Because like I had this is going to sound like, God, I don't want to sound like a jerk because I've listened to now 3 of these. Because like Landau, like, man, I just want to like sit with Landau and just be his friend. Like that guy is amazing. Beck runs a business, cut it like a business. The other one I listened to, I was like, I want to, like, this dude, if he falls down steps, I'd shrug. But so I'm very cautious.
You're gonna make editing this podcast very
Do you have to edit that out?
I don't know. I
don't think you have to edit that.
Okay, go ahead.
But like, I had to ask. I was on the phone with a good friend of mine the other day, and I had to ask him, like, am I famous? Because I don't think I am. Nor does the concept strike me, even though people stop me and whatever and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
I'm not famous in the way that, like, I don't know. If you know me, you know
this
me. This
podcast, this conversation we're having right now, this is what's going to put you over the top.
It probably will. But like, it's super weird because I guess I'm recognizable and I have like what is it, like 800,000 or something followers on social media. But who cares?
But do you wear your? Because I love that hat.
No hat.
Yeah.
No.
Because that would be the tip off.
I wear hats all the time though.
Uh-huh. But, ladies and gentlemen, you can purchase from Tim
no hat.
This hat that says, was that from the pandemic and I'm not going to wear a mask? And
no.
What did that start?
It was the most important. Very good question. There we go. This guy's an interviewer here. It was my like mantra was no for the longest time. It was the most important sentence in my career.
Okay.
Whether it be people telling me no or me telling people no. And I quit some, I've quit some really lucrative jobs. I mean, I quit. I don't think I'm allowed to say because I got a settlement. I quit this very large conservative media job that had no metrics attached to it because they were gonna, like, I was in a wrong direction with this place and they lied about their social media reach and stuff. And so, and I did a online show for them and it's not the Daily Caller. But I walked into an office I had stopped making money at some point in my life. I went to zero to like do stand up for like a year and a half straight and then get into media and I ended up being the young member chair of the National Press Club and I did a bunch of stuff and started doing like kind of my own version of the Daily Show for stuff. Anyway, so I ended up quitting this organization that was paying me more money than ever. Almost 6 figures, actually more than 6 figures. I quit it because it just was wrong. And it took everything in my brain was broken at this point because I'm making a ton of money. Nobody cared. I could have sat in this job for like years. And I gave him 6 months and I walked out, and I never thought I would have ever done that. And that's when kind of no was like solidified for me, because I'm like, you just have to cut and run. Like, you can't be in like, it's the same thing. Like, it's not just with work, but like bad relationships and all sorts of things. And also I think the sentence, not a word, the sentence no is respectful because it's quick and to the point. You're not lying. You know, you're not like, you know, if you say like, hey, let's go to Mexican today. And I go, I don't feel, you know, I don't, just say no, just get it over with. Like, if you don't, you know, it's like, but like, that's the whole thing, is it's respectful. So I got the tattoo no on my arm. And when I went to get the tattoo, I went to, I was doing a happy hour tour in Houston, and, I was just like, I did like all these little cutesy places in Houston. And then I went, there was like this whole section of town. It must be like some hipster section of town. I don't remember, where they have like 3 or 4 tattoo parlors. And I go into this tattoo parlor and I'm like, I want to get no on my arm. And the guy goes, why? And I just kind of explained the same thing that I told you. And he goes, that's crazy. And he rolls up his sleeve and he's got no on his arm. No. Period. And
okay, I just said no.
Yeah. But like I was like, oh. And then I made a hat of it and I wore it on local TV for a little bit. And I used to wear like, I also have a hat that says like official Tim Young merchandise or some stupid, like, I have dumb hats I used to get made at the mall at Lids. And I started doing the little videos online, and I got like 40 or 50 emails, and then I decided to start selling them, and I sold thousands of them. And it's like,
where can people buy this no hat?
Mouthishirts.com. I have a new website.
Mouthishirts.com.
I mean, that's another thing too. That's been something I've been working on, is like getting that up. Mouthishirts.com with a fantastic designer named Christina. Christina Buttons is what she goes by online.
All right, so you obviously have your hand in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I love some of the past jobs you've held. I got to hear about working at a bingo hall for 10 years?
Maybe more. So hold on, let me think. It was 14 to like 14. The end of law school, 20, maybe 14 years.
14 years. So what do you
Every
do at
Saturday
a bingo
night.
hall?
I used to sell the little tear-off tickets or whatever that like some restaurants have, like I noticed in like Minnesota, like restaurants have these little like tear-off tickets for like $1. You get like a box of them and you can win like
I bet there's some really competitive people in there.
I bet there's some addiction to gambling in there. And like I saw so much money come out of people's hands from my neighborhood, and like there was a lady who owned like a crab store, like she sold steamed crabs, and she would come in and she was like our whale, and she would drop like $400 to win like $500. She'd like smack down money and then tip like she just really liked the thrill of potentially winning. There's all sorts of like, there's so much, like, it's so shady. Like, local bingo halls are the shadiest thing. And like these guys, I mean, they were good people, but it's like, it's such a weird, it's just such a shady business. And it's all in cash. It's all in cash.
Uh-huh.
Right. So like, it's like, okay. And then there's like an occasional check or something too. But like, you know, they have set prizes, and it just seems, I don't know. But so for a house of like $250, I used to sell, sometimes I would sell $15,000 profit of these tickets to,
God.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I was real good at it. There are people who still work at that bingo hall that worked there when I worked there, like that have been there now for like 30 years. And I just think their lives suck. They're like federal government employees, and then they do that, and they just want the money off the record.
Oh.
Like, it's one thing if your family runs it, but it's another thing that's like, they like literally... It's insane to me. Like, I can't.
I gotta figure out a racket. You know, everybody's got a racket. I need a racket, man.
Bingo hall.
That's what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking that. All right, you've advised some politicians.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, who cares?
What do you mean, who cares?
People somehow started coming to me.
I was gonna say, like, how do they know to come to you?
I don't know.
Just word of mouth?
Yeah. And then I used to get invited to stuff in DC, and my landlord back in the day, Bill, used to force me to go to events. I hate crowds.
So have you
people.
ever given advice to a politician and watched them screw it up?
Yeah. Because they're stupid. Dude, the problem is you realize the more that you get, like, if you want to really be disheartened by things, like, how about instead of chasing down politicians at conferences and yelling in their faces, how about you just start running for office and you realize how dumb they are to begin with? It doesn't matter how much you yell in their faces or like act out, like, they're just dumb. They're normal people, but they either have money or they've been pushed by somebody with money to run for office. There are very few authentic, like truly authentic members of Congress. Mm-hmm. And the truly authentic ones hate their lives and don't want to be there more than a couple of, like, you don't have to worry about term limits because they're like, I'm going to term limit myself. I hate these other people.
Right.
One of them, I'm going to shout out one on here, is Denver Riggleman. That guy, like, he was not really a Trump guy, but he's a Republican. He was a conservative. And like his wife is a master distiller. He runs a distillery with great bourbon, Silverback in Southern Virginia. And he's former CIA. He's something, and brilliant. And he did one term and then he lost the second term and he was like, I'm cool. I'm going to go work at the distillery and like have a great time.
Right. So you bring up bourbon. I know that's a hobby of yours, but
profession now, I think.
That's what I want to ask you is, the last time we talked, there was discussion of being a part of like a bourbon bar, right? Like a big...
yeah. That like, so as most of 50% of my ideas just like get tossed. But this one I don't think it's going to get tossed. I think it's just going to be delayed a bit because I moved to Louisville for a month, and I did a podcast called Let's Drink Bourbon, and it was with the founder of Angel's Envy, Wes Henderson. He and his father did it. Yeah. And so he and I, he's a co-host. We went, it's very interesting when I'm like, I did a podcast with him. They're like, you interviewed him? I'm like, no, he was the co-host. And so we went around and talked with his friends that include like, you know, like Brad Paisley and Bill Samuels, who runs, who was the patriarch of Maker's Mark, and just really cool people. And we had a great time. And so like, I guess that was the low-hanging fruit above a brick and mortar restaurant. But at any given time, I have 85 ideas happening, and I'm an idea guy. I'm not a follow-through guy. Right. And I'll get people in, and if people like stay on it and stay in with it, it happens. If not, it goes by the wayside. But I have lots of what I think are good ideas, but I guess since they never come to fruition, they're not good ideas.
Well, I think I told you the first time we talked that, and I have no idea how this came up. I think maybe you had mentioned something about bourbon, and I told you I had this dream that I owned some sort of bourbon bar type thing, and that was the most ridiculous coincidence for me to bring that up and to you be working on that project. I want to be the first one in the door, Tim. Come on.
I know. Well, you're welcome to. I have a bunch of people who want to throw money behind it, and I just want to make sure that I'm like in the right place to get it done. I think I am, but like I just need to probably get a manager, get some of that investment money to like hire a manager to like just tell me to do things and be places. It's a bad. Like I'm the worst at organizing things. That's why like when we went to record this, I was like, get it locked in now. You're like, well, what time? I'm like, just tell me a time and show up.
Yep, that's how this happened. Okay, let's see here.
You talk about how I don't own a car. That was like supposed to be your first question, and I've delayed you all the way through.
Yeah, I was going to get there, but let's talk about that. I'm fascinated by that because if I didn't own a car, I would be driven insane because within 2 hours of me deciding I'm not going to own a car, I would need to get somewhere, and I wouldn't have that ability. I guess you could Uber, which I'm sure you use, right?
Yeah.
But why don't you have a car?
Because I'm stupid. And I realized this when I went to Louisville. No, so I wanted to have a full small town feel, and I didn't want to really go hard on a vehicle, and I didn't feel like I needed it if I lived, because I mean I live literally off of Main Street in Grapevine. It's pretty nice here, and I didn't find the need for it. And when I have a car, all I do is go around and hoard collectibles and bourbon.
It's almost like a self-imposed restriction on yourself.
It is.
Your ability to go and because whenever we've hung out, you're like, hey, let's go to this antique store, right?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go here.
Let's
I
go
want
to
to
an
go
antique mall. Yeah, let's
I'm
go
like,
spend
bro,
money.
why don't you just get a car?
Oh, because I'd rather just use people. Mm-hmm. But so I'm going on almost 2 years now.
Uh-oh. Sorry, as you're talking, I'm noticing there's some empty spots up here above the cabinets.
Oh, I didn't even, yeah.
You got to fill those in with some stuff.
I got stuff for that.
Anyway, go ahead. So have you decided, are you going to get a car?
I got one, and it was a lemon, and I returned it.
Oh, no.
Did I not tell you that?
No.
So before I went to Louisville, I was going to buy a car rather than rent one because the rental in Louisville was going to be $3,000. I got it down to $700, by the way. So
insane.
For the month. and then it was $300 for the one that came back, but like the one way, which wasn't bad either for 3 days. But I got again, people give me a hard time because I'm cheap too. That's the other thing. For me being a hoarder, I'm incredibly cheap. So I got a Ford Fusion Hybrid, and I'll tell you this quick story. So like it was a Ford certified pre-owned. I hope Ford listens to this and they give me a car. It was a Ford certified pre-owned. It was like $22,000. Way more expensive than what it should be, right? Because like everything is inflated right now and terrible. Mm-hmm. And the computer went up in 3 days. Like so, in the computer in a Ford Fusion or a Ford Fusion Hybrid, like basically the screen is all of your environmental controls and your radio and everything else you can think of, backup camera and all that. Yeah. So because it's big in the middle. So that went up in 3 days. It clicked. They were like, just turn it off, turn it back on. I'm like, sure, whatever. I'll do that. So okay, you have 14 days to get a full refund. Day 8, it does it again. I go in, I go, all right, this has got to get fixed. So they reset the computer, and when they reset the computer, I look at the background, and I thought that there was like a little pattern, like a little nifty pattern on the back of on the screen. No, the screen was warped somehow. So the computer was warped in it, and I was like, this has got to get replaced. So I didn't hear from them for 3 days. Day 11,
they're trying to run out the clock.
That's what they did. Day 11, I call them. They're like, we can get the part in on day 15. I'm like, my...
No, I'm not believing that.
And I handed them the key. I was like, money back. And they knew it. Like, they were like, well, what if we fix it right now? I go, I'm sorry, you have the ability to fix it right now, and you just lied to me? That makes it worse.
Wow.
The most, like, depressing / angry part of the entire thing, though, when you get a car back, when you return a car, is when, and I paid for most of it outright. I wanted a tiny financing so I could just, help the credit get a little stronger or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the most like depressing / angering part was when the car salesman had to go get a check and hand it to me. I don't know if they make them do that, but like I couldn't just pick up the check. He had to come in. He wasn't there. He drove in and had to go to the accounting office and get my check and then hand it to me.
Oh. That's tough.
Yeah, but like...
It's not your problem.
Don't sell me a lemon.
Right.
How about that?
Right. And don't lie to me either.
But so that was me trying to get a car. And then...
so what are you going to do now?
Not get a car.
Oh, well,
I was assigned... Look, I'm very I'm like environmentally conscious, apparently. By accident.
Right. The accidental environment.
If I wanted to argue like Greta Thunberg or whatever, like number one, she flies in private jets. But like I don't have a car, and most of my clothes come from thrift stores.
Ta-da.
And antique malls, and a lot of the junk I buy is from antique malls. Mm-hmm. So like really, I probably have the smallest conservative footprint as a conservative, which is really odd because I'm cheap.
When you originally answered my email questions, you were going through a little something, and I don't know if this is still the same.
What was I going through? No, is it about a girl?
No. It's still the same.
It's over.
No, stop. Still the same. It's your favorite comfort food at the time was gingerbread cookies.
Oh.
Remember, you ordered them from Canada.
I have a whole closet full of them up there now.
Really? Still? Because
I don't eat them that fast.
Okay, because now the end of summer, and you've had these things.
They're good through October. Listen, the sell-by date says October 31st.
The Canadian truckers situation was going on when you ordered these, and so they were delayed, and you ended up getting your Christmas cookies in January,
They're
whatever
delightful.
It was. And so you're still finishing those off, huh?
I still have 90% of them.
Oh my goodness!
I give them to people though, because I'm a delightful person. I want people to enjoy these gingerbread cookies that
Obviously,
I paid $1.50 a box for.
You need to find more people to give them to if you're still getting 90% of them.
Well, I might need them. Right? I can't just give them all out. Come on, Keith.
What does that mean?
I might need them for something.
You could trade them for a car.
I could do that. By the way, I just thought about it. I picked up a cigar. I've become like a cigar kind of aficionado.
You got a humidor here you didn't have last time I was here.
I'm correcting for my carbon footprint by like just smoking tobacco and blowing it into Does that add to the hole in the ozone? Remember the hole in the ozone?
Yeah, that repaired itself.
It's magic. Magic. No, I really like those cookies. I thought you were going to talk about like relationships because I realized why I'm single the other day.
Uh-oh.
It's because I live in a tiny tourist town that basically the average age of the people here is 65.
And you don't have a car.
And I don't have a car. When I was in Louisville, so I'm leaving Louisville. And
I didn't know you were single. I thought you had a girlfriend. Uh-oh.
That ended like 3 days ago.
Oh, no, bro. I had no idea.
Well, it's been back and forth. And there's probably going to be a girl that's listening to this is like, he's been flirty with me over the... Yeah, whatever.
Oh no, man! I'm sorry.
I don't cheat, but like so when I was in Louisville, like, and it was up in the air, so it was, I didn't do any. I wasn't a bad person in Louisville, but like when I was there, I met all of these, like, it was great. I went out like almost every night because it's fun, and I would find new like bourbon places, and I made all these like friends, and like literally the last week that I'm leaving town, like I'm getting messages from different women every day, like, hey, why do you want to come out? Like women I hadn't talked to in like the 3 weeks. Like I saw them the first week I was there, and then after, this is how this works for me.
Okay.
I like hung out with them the first week, and I was like, we should do something, and they're like, yeah, and then I didn't hear from them until literally I'm leaving town. I'm like, cool, thanks so much, friend.
Are you gonna move to Louisville?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I realized that if you have a car, you can go places.
Right.
And when that are outside of your... My best friend in town is a 69-year-old lady. She's like, we're like the Golden Girls. She's still actively dating. She's pretty put together, actually, like for being like... I'm not going to call her old, but like she's very put together, and we like go grocery shopping.
Oh.
And like we go to Costco, and then we talk about her dating life, and I share my like dating life. Like we are the Golden Girls.
Does she let you borrow the car ever?
Yeah.
That's nice.
But I never do that, though. Like, if there's an emergency, I could borrow the car. She has a Subaru. She's got the Lesbo-mobile. And she calls it that. But she's so cool. And, like, she's like a Bill Maher liberal. And so she used to live in my building when I used to live in a apartment building down the street. And we've become, like, best friends. And we know everything about each other's lives. I told her she's got to stop dating Gene because he hires hookers. And you can't go out with Gene.
Wow. Drop Gene, would you?
Drop Gene. Actually, she just makes Gene come over and do her like housework. She is...
Oh, boy.
She's like she's my spirit animal, and I really enjoy hanging out with her. And she's like... She says the same thing, too. We look around, and she's like, you're not going to meet anybody in this town, Tim. You like... You walk up and down Main Street.
You literally walk up and down the street.
And it's all elderly people, except for like, and like I go, like my local haunts include the VFW up the street, which is, by the way, all old people.
What can you do at a VFW in the middle of the day?
I don't do anything at the VFW. Oh, you can smoke a cigar there. And you can get some nice brisket. They have delightful brisket tacos. And if you check in 7 times, you get $5 off your...
What?
Your meal. Yeah.
Where are we doing lunch today?
The VFW?
Maybe.
Nah. Okay. I love this. I love the sense of community, and I love this town. If they could maybe entice women to, like, actually, you know what the other problem is too? Keith, thanks for asking.
Well, while we have a moment, I'm going to ask you to not have a chokehold on the microphone over there, because
okay, fine.
Unfortunately, it's gonna blunt what you're having to say.
Oh, sorry. I'll cut it out. I haven't had human exposure in a while, and so I need to talk to. I haven't talked to somebody who's a peer of mine in a while, and I just want to talk to you about it, Keith.
Okay. Well, you're in luck, because I'm effectively a 46-year-old man with the brain of a 90-year-old man, so it's not like you're really hanging out with a peer.
And I'm a 41-year-old man who identifies as a 70-year-old woman.
Oh.
Which is just, but so. My problem is that when I go drinking, like when I want to go out to a bar, I hate crowds, right? So, and I like the juice. And actually, this was that was awesome. The biggest compliment, the top of the Topo Chico he put on just popped off and flew across the table because of the evil spirits that live in this house.
So you go out to the bar.
Last night's seance carried over to today.
I want to see if it happens again.
I go out to bars, and the biggest compliment I ever got. So Bill Samuels from Maker's Mark and Wes Henderson are hanging out. We were doing this podcast, and I was like, my problem is, like, jokingly, my problem is that I go drinking at like 2 p.m., 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Hang out with like the owners or the bar managers, like talk juice and leave. And they're like, yeah, because you actually respect the product that you're drinking. You're not there to get drunk. And I go, fun fact, yeah. But at that point, then I get buzzed by like 4 o'clock and I'm home. And so then the people who are in my peer group, who would be ideally someone who would be like a partner, a dating, like a girl.
A prospect.
A prospect.
Yeah.
They work jobs that are 9 to 5. I run all these businesses and stuff, and I'm like, there are times where you're like, oh, it's 2 o'clock. I don't work at 9 to 5. So all the 9 to 5ers come out at like 6, but I'm done at 4. And so I'm friends with all these bar owners. And like they know me, it's great. Like, you know, like, but I am never around crowds. Hate it.
Oh, do you
Probably
you
not.
still play musical instruments at all?
No.
Is that when you were a kid?
Yeah.
What did you play?
And as an adult, I could pick up almost anything and it worked.
Oh wow,
So I played like every brass instrument and guitar and piano and.
good for you.
One of my big things. There's a famous guitarist who wants to really get me to master guitar, and I won't.
You gonna pursue it?
Yeah, because she was like, "Hey, if you help me with social media, I'll give you a really nice guitar and teach you how to play it." And you just like so, and she lives up. She's a conservative, but she lives up in like the woods in Portland, like outside of Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And I'm like, wait, so I get to come up and just hang out in the woods with like you and your family and like your mansion, and they're like, yeah, that's like, so that's the one like, there were a couple moments where I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like there were a couple moments where I'm like, this is really cool that I could hang out with these people. And like that was one of them where it was like we were talking about stuff, and she's like, why don't you just come up and I'll teach you how to play. She's like, you want to meet women? I'll get you to play the guitar. And it's somebody who's written some crazy music. That's the interesting thing too. There's a lot of conservatives that are in entertainment that don't want to say it. But she's like, I can teach you guitar right now, and you'll pull tons of women. I'm like, probably not, because I'll still go to the bar at 2:00 in the afternoon. It'll be like Phoebe Buffay on Friends. I just reference Friends.
So what was the biggest turning point in your life? You say it was when you won the vice presidency of your student government in high school.
Yeah, I learned that if you talk, you can get people to react to you. And I there was this.
Was there like an onstage performance like in Napoleon Dynamite? Did you dance to get
Yes.
votes or?
Yes. It was such like a stereotype, and I saw it back in the day. So it was the popular kids, like the popular cheerleader was always automatically became like president of the student government. And I was a geek and I ran and and I was like, hey, like I remember this speech. Literally, this was like a breakout moment for me, and I realized that I could influence people. I was like, hey, this is another typical election between a nerd and a popular person, and you have a chance to actually change the path and the course of how things work around here. And people, like, you would have thought that I solved cold fusion in front of an audience. They stood, like, I got a standing ovation, and I was like, holy moly. And then afterwards, I get cornered in the hallway by the student government advisor who was like, you made Jill Davis cry. Jill Davis was her name.
What is it with you making girls cry?
Have I talked about making more women cry in this podcast?
Well, at the courtroom scene.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because I'm a misogynist. I hate women, Keith.
So Jill Davis.
She was like, you made Jill Davis cry. Jill Davis, by the way, when I was a chunko back in the day, like chunkier than now. She ended up going out with me for a little bit after high school because like she realized she was defeated and I was the popular kid. We flipped and then I turned into a tyrant.
Flip the script.
I flipped the script and I turned into the evil tyrant, and the popular kids were it's
like a movie.
It was like me and the special ed kids formed a gang and took over. We were like a mob that took over the school.
Okay.
So she was like, so we had two speeches. One was in the auditorium, one was in the cafeteria. And like after the auditorium one, I was pulled on the side. You made Jill Davis cry. Don't ever do that again. Like, change your speech. I'm like, cool. So I did the exact same speech and got another standing ovation. I won 90-10 and blew her out of the water.
Nice.
And like they knew apparently within the first so it was my homeroom advisor who ended up being a good friend of mine for a while. He said he knew within the first like half hour of counting votes. Like, and there was like I think like 1,300 people in the school or something. He's like, the first half hour they were like, this is a blowout. Like the returns came in from ninth grade.
The early
and they were like, she can't recover from this. Jill Davis can't recover from the.
Go ahead and call it.
We've got the ninth grade biology section. So then I turned into a tyrant, and she tried to run again. So that was vice president. She tried to run again for president, and I had installed all. I did a Democrat. I was a Democrat. I was essentially a Democrat in high school. This is why I understand what they're doing now. So I installed all my people and geeks, like people who would never. And the thing was, like, because I was GT or whatever, AP, whatever, and so like I only knew geeky kids. You know, none of the kids that would drink and stuff like that. And they like were super smart. So I put them all in charge of like the elections and everything else. And so when she went to try to run again for president, when I ran for president, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I forget what it was. They were like, oh, I'm so sorry. You don't meet like qualifications like 3 and 4 to run anymore.
Oh, no.
And so I blocked her, and then we rewrote the Constitution so that I took all the power away from everyone else except for me.
And this is high school.
And I began yes, this was like, I started firing popular kids that made it to, so like even if they were elected, I made it so that there was like it was like a one party total dictatorship, and I started picking them off and throwing them out for like minor things and replacing them with geeky kids, and I had a like totalitarian regime.
That's awesome, dude.
It was, by the way, like it was, I mean, we lowered I depleted the entire, so they had like a savings for like the student government, and like I killed the whole savings. So this was like, what are we sitting on this money for? Like, why do we have a rainy day fund for a high school student government?
Oh, no.
And so like, I didn't spend it on anything good. I was like, so like homecoming, I made the tickets, they were normally $10. I made them $2.50. And like, we would do things like that. And I was like, so why are we sitting on this money? And so I literally like, I was a Democrat. I depleted a rainy day fund. I changed all of the rules. I turned myself into a dictator, and I changed the election to win. And Jill Davis right now, who knows where she is? I
Listening
know,
to this podcast and crying.
I know where she is because she's on Facebook, and
Oh, no.
she's got a nice family.
All right. Let's see here. If you could go back in history, you'd like to meet James Buchanan. Why is that?
Because he was the president that got it. Because he knew he sucked, and he knew he hated his job, and
Yeah.
he left.
And-
and he like, instead of like dealing with the Civil War like Abraham Lincoln did, he's like, nah, no. Like he played like a delay of game. He's like, I don't like this.
And also, as we've discussed on this podcast before, America's first gay president, James Buchanan.
He was a certified bachelor.
Sure.
Also, he is
Sure.
but he had his ancestors, like his niece or something, spend his life savings to build. There's a statue to him. There's like a James Buchanan memorial that was built in D.C. and I always forget the name of the park, but like it's called Malcolm X Park, and there's something another name for it that I used to live by. And the story is like he basically had his leftover money and was like, go build a memorial to me because nobody else will.
Wow. I bet it's fabulous.
It kind of sucks actually.
Oh.
But it's this hill. Oh man, shame on me for forgetting the name of it. But it was actually the original idea was to put the White House on this hill where Malcolm X Park is, because it's there's a large hill in DC. That was one of the concepts of it, but instead they ended up down where it is.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in first grade, you peed in your pants.
Yeah.
What was the story there?
I had a new Boy Scout belt, Cub Scout belt, and I couldn't get it undone. And unlike
Oh, I've been there with those, man.
there's the one, it's like a jigger to get it like open, and you can't. Yeah. And so I'm standing there and I had to go, and I didn't think, hey, there's a fly. Like I didn't. Yeah. And so like I sat and then I peed my pants. But you know what the difference is between going to school in like the 80s, elementary school in the 80s, and going to elementary school now is that there would certainly be a male teacher around to help you with your belt now.
So you want to host a TV show at some point. How are we going to make that happen?
I don't know if the TV show's even like. I think I'm going to end up doing a podcast because I have a couple of big friends who do big podcasts, and they're like, do you know how much money you're leaving on the table? And I'm like, yeah, but I hate it. Like it's so, dude, you're in political radio and you do something more interesting, which is this podcast.
To get away from politics.
It's politics. It's repetitive.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm shocked that my Twitter does well because I feel like every hot take has been hot took. And like sometimes I happen to get something out that does well. But like, I'm so tired of it, and everybody wants to be a thing, and everybody wants to be a social media thing, and I'm like, I hate this. Like, I'm weird because like I am in the middle of my age, and you too, of the traditional media model, and the everybody's a social media star model, and you get to deal with these types of both sides of this coin, not only on your show but in person, because you have Glenn Beck and Pat Gray, who's very unleashed, because you can't put that guy on a leash. But although he does keep himself tied up in his wires on his desk, which he kind of is leashed, if we really want to talk about it.
Fair point. Take the headphones
that
off.
just hit me, by the way. But no. The thing is, you have traditional guys like that who understand, like, I'm going to do my thing, and like and then you have people who are like, I'm going to go pull stunts all day long and try to get famous on hits. Mm-hmm. And so I'm somewhere in the middle of that. And I've done the stunty things. I was doing Man on the Streets before people were like 2008, 2006. I was doing Man on the Streets for stuff and like making fun of people and doing that thing. And it's old. That's like the whole thing is like, it's just so old. I just feel like I'm a guy who talked and it got popular. And I don't feel like I'm like, there are people who flaunt themselves around and do crazy things and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be around people. And and I don't care. Like, and I'm not going to do a stunt for things.
Right.
And I'm not like, I mean, like, I have to like come to grips with that I'm a known entity. But like, also, I feel like it's disingenuous for me to do a podcast every day. And because I think it's a money grab. That being said, I probably should, because one of my friends has like 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube yelled at me and showed me his financials and was like, "You're an idiot for leaving this money on the table." He goes, he's like, just know you have to be yelled at to do it. Makes it authentic. But I've gotten yelled at every time that I've done something in my life that's significant financially. It's because I've gotten yelled at. So like starting t-shirts and shirts, I get yelled at by friend. Like, it's like, why are you not doing this? You're an idiot. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I think this is finally going to happen. I got the Bourbon podcast because I think it's significant and I think it's fun to talk to like significant people in the industry and tell their stories like you do. Mm-hmm. But it's, for me, I just feel, man, like stunts, man. I can't do stunts.
Right. So where do you want people to go to find you on the old internet? You got some...
Sure, timyoung.com. At Tim Runs His Mouth is the other one.
All right. Well, have we pretty much covered everything? You ready to go and have lunch?
Yeah, I guess so. Is there anything else we need to cover?
I think we need to take a tour of the collectibles you have here.
I think I need to pee first because I drink a lot of coffee.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tim Young, timyoung.com. Thanks so much for making time, man.
You don't want to do another 2 hours? We can really get into this. I thought we were just warmed up.
I got to pee too, man.
All right, bye.
Bye. It was so fun getting to hang out with Tim and literally drink him out of house and home, quite frankly. It's a wonderland that he has set up there, and it's an experience in of itself. Now, if you would not mind making it a priority to head over to the YouTube channel that we have set up now, youtube.com/atthemic with Keith. If you could please subscribe, click the bell for notifications. You'll get notified whenever our weekly episode drops, and also some bonus content that we put up there on occasion. And if you want to make sure that you're notified, don't forget to click that bell. youtube.com/atthemic with Keith. And of course, this podcast available in so many places, and wherever you're able to rate it 5 stars, like Apple iTunes and Spotify, I would be grateful for that as well. All of the places you can listen to this podcast are in one handy-dandy location, atthemicshow.com. Well, on our next episode, we're going to chat with a coworker of mine, of my day job over at Blaze TV and Radio. His name is Chris Corby. He makes sure that you hear all of the audio in your speakers during the Pat Gray Unleashed show and other stuff over there as well. Again, that's part of our day jobs, Chris and I. And we're going to discuss his life story next week here on At the Mic. And as always, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us here. Now, I hope that you'll go be free. And thank you for listening.
This has been At the Mic with Keith, an independent podcast production. Head to atthemicshow.com for archived episodes, sponsor information, and ways to connect.